Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored Never Boring. Halloween is already behind us, but there is still something scary going on. And no, I don't mean the fact there are already Christmas adverts on the television and Christmas music playing in stores when Christmas is still almost 2 full months away. I mean that once again, Warhammer Quest Cursed City has risen from the grave to give fans a spooky treat. Actually, honestly, this does feel a bit more like a trick than a treat. Another artful troll from Games Workshop who have an impeccable knack of waiting just long enough for everyone to think they have finally hammered the coffin shut on Cursed City before suddenly announcing something new for the game. We all know the handling of this game has been exceptionally bad. From the initial print run selling out instantly, to the public announcement it was never intended to be a long-running product, to the long period of radio silence on the subject, followed by an unexpected second printing which seemed to suggest they were going to invest more time into the game again, followed by back-to-back expansions that were well overpriced and somewhat lackluster when compared to the quality of the expansions we had previously seen for Blackstone Fortress. It's been a shambles, and each time it seemed the game was dead, up it would pop once more to stagger around in the half-forgotten wasteland of discarded Games Workshop products like a feral zombie, a shadowy spectre of what it could have been had it received more care and attention. Well, this time Games Workshop have decided to publish a new scenario for the game in White Dwarf issue 494, which goes up for pre-order on the 4th of November 2023. This appears to be a one-shot adventure in an alternative timeline called The Last Days of Haven. For anybody who has played Cursed City through to completion, including the expansions, Haven is a recognisable name. It's the base for the freedom fighters hidden within the city walls. Towards the end of the narrative campaign that spans the core game and the 2 expansions, Haven regularly comes under attack, forcing the heroes to defend it with their lives. But ultimately, if the heroes are successful, and there are spoilers here so plug your ears for 10 seconds if you need to, the residents of Haven are rescued in the nick of time, even though some of the heroes are not quite so lucky. As Games Workshop have said, this new scenario is set in an alternative timeline, everything is a multiverse these days, and furthermore have said the scenario represents a last stand against endless hordes of enemies. It seems that this scenario is a what-if adventure that charts the ultimate demise of Haven if the heroes had failed in their campaign to liberate Ulfenkarn. Games Workshop have shared the layout for the mission and some of the rules, but my eyesight isn't up to reading any of it. Although, I think it's fair to assume this will be a one-shot where you are simply playing for points, seeing how long you can last until the world comes crashing down. I suppose you could potentially drop it into the main story campaign, after failing to complete the final boss fight for example, but I feel that's not really the intention. Still, might be fun to try out. And speaking of intentions, does Games Workshop publishing this scenario now mean anything? Is there some greater intent or meaning behind it? Is this a way to refresh the name of Warhammer Quest prior to a potential new game in the series coming out early next year? Is it a way to give the impression that yes, they really do support these sideline games after launch, so the next time they release such a game, you feel like it won't be instantly dumped? Is it a way of broadening the appeal of White Dwarf magazine to drive more sales there? Is it just that they had some leftover Cursed City content and they had a space to fill in the magazine and used whatever they could find on the cutting room floor? Is it to troll me because I recently cancelled my subscription to White Dwarf magazine after months and months of receiving it and finding nothing inside that was of interest? Or is there no meaning behind it at all? Is this just Games Workshop being random Games Workshop? Whatever the reason for publishing this, it does make me wonder if it's going to be worth it. Cursed City evoked some bad feeling at the time, and now that has all died down to some extent, is publishing fresh content going to be seen as a nice bonus, an early Christmas present, or is it just going to remind people that Cursed City was a bit of a mess? Regardless, I am personally happy to see new content for the game, and I hope this means that Games Workshop have been thinking once again about a new title in the series. I guess we will have to wait and see. But, interestingly enough, Warhammer Quest isn't the only dungeon crawler that has an important part of its history getting a new lease of life this week. On the 3rd of November 2023, at Lucca Comics and Games 2023, Europe's biggest pop culture festival, we got our first look at the next Quest expansion for HeroQuest, a retooling of the European fan favourite Against the Ogre Horde. Originally, this was one of the expansions that never got a release in the US, and while its planned release by Avalon Hill for the new edition of the game has been a pretty poorly kept secret, it's nice to finally see something concrete. At the moment, Avalon Hill haven't shared much more than the front cover, which is a nice update of the classic original piece, but there are a few tantalising morsels of information floating around the internet. First, Avalon Hill have said the quest brings a big challenge. This is possibly a reference to the Ogre King, the new big boss that was mentioned briefly in the Avalon Hill Discord recently. I think the king is probably the happy looking chap second from the right with the fancy hat and the big whomping scepter, and he could well be a large miniature covering multiple spaces on the board. Also note how the ogres on the front cover all look unique. In the original expansion the enemies included a lord, a chieftain, a champion and 4 warriors. It seems like if this art is indicative of the miniatures, we will be getting similarly varied enemies this time, and maybe even some new ogre types. I mean, look at the ogre just behind the king's right shoulder. That really does look like a shaman. Now, just because the ogres on the cover look varied and cool, that doesn't mean all the miniatures in the box will also be like that. I'm sure the regular ogres will be the same sculpt used in the Mage of the Mirror expansion, but there is a chance we will get some new great sculpts here, and it would be really cool to see all of these characters from the artwork brought to life on the tabletop. Additionally, we have been told that this expansion offers a new way to play called the Arena. This mode of play was hinted at Essen when the HeroQuest display included a gigantic arena lined with all the miniatures from the game released up to that point. It's also a little nod to the original 1989 European release of the game, which included rules for turning the central room of the board into an arena to learn the basics of combat. This concept was excised from the rules by the time of the 1990 reprint, but the fact that such a nod to the original even exists today lets me know that Avalon Hill continue to be fine custodians of the HeroQuest brand. So, what will the arena mode be? I am assuming, and of course we all know to assume makes an ass of you and me, it will involve drafting a team of heroes and monsters and then battling your friends and family using some special skirmish rules. But again, we will have to wait and see. Finally, Avalon Hill have confirmed an official release date of March 2024. At the moment, I believe that's it from the official news, but a quick look around the internet does reveal some more information of note. Several online vendors are already offering pre-orders. Firestorm Games in the UK, for example, has the expansion up for pre-order with a £40.99 recommended retail price reduced to £38.94, and an expected release date of the 31st of March 2024. Thirsty Meeple has the expansion for £39 with an expected release date window of January to March 2024. So, there we go, good news for Warhammer Quest and HeroQuest fans, all packaged up neatly in one news drop. That's got to be a good way to round out the week. Let me know your thoughts in the comments because that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.